really do an audit of what your strengths are. You have 3 children that are young that you need to raise. I could have been a better parent. I didn't love being a housewife. That wasn't what I felt my calling. It doesn't matter that you're always going to be the minority. The biggest decision, the most impactful and important decision you'll ever make in your life.
And as a result of that, many people in our family had to struggle.
And I would always say, I will never be in the construction industry.
Hi, world changers. My name is Lydia Mlouhi, and welcome back to another episode of In Harmony, giving you light and encouragement and wisdom to pursue the incredible life that God has for you. Today is a very exciting episode. I've been looking forward to this for so long because today we're going to be interviewing and hearing the personal story of somebody who is very close to me, somebody who I've had the privilege of witnessing so closely since the day I was born, and that is my mother, Lydia Mlouhi. She is a successful business owner of Crown Heritage Custom Homes and Mlouhi organization, but her journey to get to where she is today was a lot of businesses, some that worked and some that didn't. And we're going to be asking her more about her story, the challenges that she faced, the setbacks, the self-doubt that she had to overcome to get to the place that she's at today, and the lessons that we can learn from her. So I'm super excited to share her with you all today. So Mother Lydia Mlouhi, thank you so much for joining us.
You're welcome.
Okay, so I know, as some background, you've had businesses you were selling cosmetics when you got out of college years ago. You had a Western wear store for a couple of years. You were running a restaurant for over a decade, and now you have a custom home building company. So am I missing anything? In businesses?
No,
okay.
I think that's everything. Yeah.
So very different businesses, and I'm sure there's a plethora of information and lessons that you've learned from that. So in your journey, in this entrepreneurial journey that you've had, a lot of entrepreneurs today, they struggle with self-doubt. Can you share a time in your journey that you faced self-doubt, and how did you overcome that?
I would say in every business that we've owned and established, self-doubt is
a
pretty
daily
much
demon,
if not daily, almost a daily thing. If you're going to be an entrepreneur, you have to embrace self-doubt, and that's something that took me a little while to figure out. But if you network with other business owners, or you watch interviews for other entrepreneurs and business owners, you will see that it's almost a given for every entrepreneur. And like I said, if you learn to embrace that, it's something that'll serve you well. And actually, I think self-doubt is a good thing, because anytime that you embark on something that is going to grow your business or grow you professionally, you will have self-doubt. But that is really a sign that you're moving forward, that you're pioneering. If you don't have self-doubt, maybe it's time for you to expand in the challenges in your business. So not a bad thing, I've learned.
Was there ever a time in your journey, or maybe a certain business venture, or maybe a certain season in your life, where you were struggling with self-doubt a lot? And what did that self-doubt look like?
Actually, you mentioned that at one time we owned a restaurant. And so my husband and I, of course your dad, were business partners, and several of the businesses that I've been involved in, we were co-founders of those businesses. And we had also already established a home building company. And so we were operating both businesses
at the same time and raising children.
Yes, and raising you all. And we decided that we were going to sell the restaurant operation. I remember that time was very difficult. I remember going to church one day on a Sunday, and we were still going back and forth on what to do. And I remember just crying, in the middle of the sermon. And I don't remember exactly what was said in the sermon, but I do remember crying just because I was so stressed
And scared.
And I remember at that time too, my parents were advising us not against it.
Wow.
And they were telling us, you have 3 children that are young that you need to raise, and you're leaving something that is a sure thing for something that is unknown. And so that really stands out in my mind in terms of a time when I had a self-doubt. Now, if you have a life partner, a spouse that can support, I feel like for your dad and I, like I said, we co-founded several businesses, but it really helps to have somebody like that in your life that will
push you,
that will encourage you and is experiencing the same doubts, but at any given time, maybe one of you needs a little more support than the other. And so that I feel very blessed to have that type of partner in my life.
Aw, that's so beautiful. Okay, so on that is something I think all business owners can relate to, is that fear where it's like, it keeps you up at night. It's all you think about when you're at church. It's all that's running through your head. And a lot of us, we have these ideas. We have these ideas that we're so passionate about, but we don't take that step because we let fear hold us back. What mindset shifts have been most critical for you in moving forward from an idea to actually being a success, to actually being a business owner?
What I have found very helpful whenever I experience self-doubt or I'm afraid of the unknown, I've learned to kind of think of worst case scenario. And so in my mind, I play out, okay, what's the worst thing that can happen if it fails? Then what could we do? Is it something that, I can live with if the worst case scenario happens?
Yeah.
And so that is something that I've learned to do that really helps, because if I'm able to be okay with the worst case scenario, then it makes me less fearful. Once again, going back to your spouse, when you're looking for a husband or a wife, it is a good idea to not look for somebody that is exactly like you, but rather somebody that will complement you. And so that's where I feel that your father and I complement each other, because, like I said, I'm a more stable person, a person that doesn't like change, a person that sometimes, always overanalyzes things. He's very different in terms of he's, I guess, a little more of a risk taker, and he compliments me in that way, and so he encourages me whenever I have a lot of fear. He helps me get through that fear. He's more of a, rather than an analytical person, he kind of goes a lot.
He's a little
by
impulsive.
His gut feel.
He can be more impulsive.
He bases his decisions more on his gut feeling versus spreadsheets and pros and cons.
Yeah.
And so that is something that, as you're looking for a life partner, it is a great thing if you can find somebody that can complement or compensate for in the areas where you may be a little more, towards the left or towards the, to either end of the extremes. That's
funny, because when I wrote down that question, I was thinking you were going to say something, like what mindset shifts? Like you have to believe in yourself, but you actually gave the advice of something that's very practical to say, like what you do. And maybe this might help somebody who also might be very analytical, is like, go to the worst possible scenario. And if that happens, will you have a plan B? Will you be prepared for that? Is that something that you can withstand, And I think that that's really good advice, because so many times we hear the woo-woo, which is great, but it's also good to be prudent or being pragmatic and practical about what these risks what might happen. So that's really good advice. Okay. And sometimes when we go after our dreams and then we fail at something, a lot of us, we see that as an indicator that we should stop. Can you tell us about a significant failure that you experienced on your journey and one of the biggest lessons that you learned from it?
One of the biggest lessons that I've learned in my entrepreneurial journey is embrace failures, and rather than seeing them as failures, see them as learning experiences. Sometimes they can be very costly, even financially costly.
Yeah.
But anytime that something happens and what you would call a failure, I've learned to ask myself, okay, what can I learn from this situation so that I can avoid making the same mistake again? And so if I see it from that perspective of, well, it's a learning experience, and just like you go to college and you pay tuition to learn, well, sometimes in your business you will make mistakes and they're going to be costly, but you paid a price for that lesson. And so
it's like your tuition.
So it's like your tuition. And if you read about different entrepreneurs or you actually, good idea when you're a business owner, have a network of other small business owners. I think that's very beneficial too, because especially if they're in your same industry, once you start sharing, war stories, you will see that, okay, I'm not alone. This is not just unique to me. We're all having struggles, and you can even ask for advice or sometimes even giving others advice that are just starting in business in your industry, that you learn from that as well, and you benefit from that as well. So embrace mistakes and reap the benefits by asking yourself, what could I have done differently? Another thing that I've learned is, anytime, the way I see things now is, as the founder and the owner of our business, ultimately, everything comes back to me in terms of, I need to own anything that goes wrong.
Wow.
If one of my employees makes a mistake, rather than thinking of it only as, okay, they're to blame, now I'm seeing it more from the perspective, and I'm better served by this perspective as the book Extreme Ownership really yes, that book really helped shift my mindset. I highly recommend it for entrepreneurs. I think it's very empowering to say, okay, ultimately, I'm the owner of this business, and if this failed, what was it in the system or in the person that I entrusted or put this responsibility on? What did I do? How did I contribute to it?
Wow.
And so seeing it from that perspective is very empowering, because the minute that you see it from that perspective, now you can begin to analyze, what could I do differently next time? Versus saying, oh my gosh, this employee, he made this or she made this mistake and it cost me thousands of dollars. It's them. That doesn't serve me well, because
for your business
or my business.
Clients.
So that is something that I've learned. And like I said, as an entrepreneur, always strive to continue to educate yourself, read books on entrepreneurship, network with other entrepreneurs, so that you're always growing and you're always benefiting from that information.
Is there, in the many businesses that you've created, the ones that worked and the ones that didn't, is there a particular failure that stood out to you in particular that was really difficult for you to overcome or really difficult for you to wrestle with?
So one of the first business that your dad and I established together was we owned Western wear stores. And so we opened these businesses even before we were married. And they were very profitable for a while, but back then in the 90s,
was all the
Western,
rage.
it was all the rage. So, but eventually, the popularity
Trends
of
changed.
the trends changed.
Wow.
And so, once again, I am a person that struggles with change. I feel like we eventually closed the stores and then we purchased a restaurant operation. But what I learned from that is, as an entrepreneur, sometimes you have to know when it's time to move on. Once again, for a person like me that struggles with change, even when you're a person that doesn't like change, you will hold on to things even at your detriment.
Wow.
Once again, that's where your father and the way he thinks really helped, because he convinced me that it was time to move on.
Wow.
And so he helped me move beyond that and into a different business. So, and that's a challenge as a business owner. How do most often than not, it takes years for a business to be profitable. Mm-hmm. So knowing when the time is to kind of stop, cut your losses and move on, or versus, this is just a wave that we have to ride and it'll get better. That is something that is a difficult thing to do.
That's really interesting. Wow. That was a really good example. Okay. So on that, not just do you have all of these experiences, this journey of these different businesses, but as you said, you're a wife, you're a mother, and you're a business owner. What were some of the biggest challenges that you faced balancing all three of these roles? And what advice would you give to somebody who is struggling with something similar?
When we first started a family and I had, a newborn, a 2-year-old and a 5-year-old, it was very difficult. I think that the message that a lot of women get from, outside sources and society and the media is you need to have it all. A woman should have it all. You should be, a great mother, a great wife, a great business owner. And that message is very stressful and it's unattainable.
Wow.
And I didn't see that back then. So I was trying to do it all. And I feel, looking back, that I could have been a better parent if I hadn't believed that message. Because I feel like I was trying to do it all. And yet I was always stressed and just trying to
and putting
stay
yourself
afloat
last.
And so in the blink of an eye, you all were grown, and I feel like I could have enjoyed my children more if I wasn't always trying to be Superwoman.
Wow.
And so my advice to young mothers that are wanting to have a career is to embrace the fact that, yes, as a woman, you can have it all, but maybe not all at the same time.
Wow.
So, for instance, and you need to set your priorities straight. So when you are eventually, I kind of learned to juggle everything a little better, and I was okay when you all were younger to be less involved in our family business. Now, the fact that your father was involved in the business was very helpful, and that made it easier for me because I was able to work from home and do a lot for the business from home, and not necessarily at that time we had the restaurant, so I wasn't there at the restaurant on a daily basis, but I was doing a lot of the accounting work and the administrative work from home while you all were not yet all in school full time. Or once you were in school, I would go into the restaurant in the morning. I would drop you off at school, go to the restaurant in the morning, and then pick you. I would leave when it was time to pick you all up from school. And so eventually, when you all were older, then I was able to be more involved in the business. And I think that is important. And ultimately, as a Christian woman, family is very important to me. And maybe this wouldn't work for everybody, but I would highly advise mothers, while their kids are young, maybe that should be the priority. Wow. And don't think that, because I remember thinking, oh my goodness, I went to college, to get my bachelor's and my master's, and I'm just going to waste all of my education and all of my
money,
my dreams. And, to be honest, I didn't love being a housewife. That wasn't what I felt my calling. That wasn't my calling. I wanted to be out there, in the business world. But if you're going to be a parent, then and this is just my opinion, then once you decide to become a parent, then while you're raising your children, that should be the priority. But young women should know that later, now, I have, several businesses that we're operating because now I have more time. And so don't feel like you have to do it all at once. And believe me, there will come a time when your children are grown and you can still have a wonderful career and have all the time to devote to your career.
Oh my gosh, that was so good. I didn't know that about you. I've known you for 26 years and I've never really heard you talk about that before, but you're right. We feel, I think everyone, male and female, feel pressure to have it all, but you're right. Maybe we can't have it all at once, but there's seasons for different parts in our lives. So thank you for touching on that. I really hope that helps someone out there who's balancing many things at once. So I've always admired your work ethic, whether it was raising us, whether it was starting these businesses. I mean, sometimes you're at the office until 9, like when we have a contract to write or a price quote that needs to get done, sometimes you get home like at 9 or 10. And I've always admired your work ethic, and a strong work ethic is crucial for any entrepreneur. What habits or routines have you developed that keep you motivated and productive in your day-to-day running your business?
I think when you're a business owner and you have a purpose, that gives you the drive that you need in order to work the long hours and to be okay with the stress of being a business owner. The approach that I take to towards my business now is I have clients that have expectations of our company that we need to serve. And so I need to do whatever it takes to do that. If it takes me working 7 days a week, 10, 11-hour days, and that's what I need to do. I have employees that their livelihood depends on our business. So I feel a great sense of duty to serve, our employees. We have suppliers that need to get paid. So I need to generate the business in order for our suppliers to get paid. I have banks that give us lines of credit that are expecting the payments. So it's not so much a routine, but I would say that is what just, sometimes you don't want to go to the office. We shouldn't expect to be motivated necessarily to do something because we want to do it. It's more you need to have a reason why, and then you just do it. Don't wait until you feel like doing it, because there's many days when I know the minute I walk into the office, I have this long list of things to do, and I'm lucky if I can get to it by noon, because everybody has questions and
pulls you in different
directions. And so I feel like I'm being pulled in so many directions. It's almost like I have to psych myself up just to even walk into the office some days. But I don't rely on having, I don't rely on the fact, well, I'll do it if I feel like doing it. What motivates me to do it is I have a sense of duty to all of these people. And so because of that, I'm going to do whatever it takes.
What do you think? You made a comment that when the job needs to get done, you do whatever it takes. What do you think the balance is in, because I think this is a lot of things that all business owners struggle with, is that work-life balance, what do you think the balance is when you have obviously a lot of these duties, these responsibilities, these people who are depending on you, but also that if you don't take care of yourself, that how well can we serve these other people who depend on us? So what are your thoughts on what the balance between that is?
To be honest, I'm still a work in progress in that regard. As just recently, your father and I started talking about we have to have an exit plan. Do we want to retire while we're still young enough to actually enjoy, take more vacations and enjoy our life rather than waiting until we're forced to retire for health reasons?
Wow.
But that is one of the areas where I feel I still need to do a lot of work on in terms of balancing it, and it's a tough thing to do. But I think just even opening up the conversation in terms of let's have a plan, an exit plan. Even just talking about it, I think has given me peace of mind and has made me change the way we operate, has made us change the way we operate our business, because now we're at least inching, in that direction, but not easy to do. As a business owner, I've learned to tell myself, sometimes I'll say, okay, well, I will leave at the office at 8:00, no matter what, rather than before it was like, well, when I complete this project, then I'll leave the office.
Those
and
boundaries.
So I'm getting a little better in terms of accepting the fact that I'm always going to leave the office with not all the work being done, and that's just the way it's going to be.
That is really good. Thank you for being vulnerable about that and being honest about that, because I think that we kind of sometimes make it seem like, oh, have work-life balance, like you can do it, but it's hard, like what you said. And just because a business owner is successful doesn't mean that they've mastered that skill. I think it's all of us are working on that. So thank you for your honesty with that. So kind of shifting the conversation a little bit to something that also goes to purpose. You're currently on the ladder to be the president for the El Paso Association of Builders in 2 years. When this happens, you'll be the third female president in their 76-year history. So needless to say, this is a very male-dominated industry. What would you tell someone out there who is a young girl or maybe a minority who's hesitant to pursue their dreams or start their business because they feel like they can't make it in their field?
I would say, even if it's a very small percentage of women in that industry, let those women be your role models. And even if you don't know them personally, you can follow them on social media or talk to them if possible. But if there's even a handful of women in your industry, that means that if they're there, you can be there as well. And it doesn't matter that you're always going to be the minority in that industry. If that's what you want to do, then you should definitely pursue it. I think that sometimes too, as women, we assume that we're going to be met with resistance or disrespect from the males in those industries. But I will say that I have not encountered that in this industry. Other builders that I interact with are, other, male owners of home building companies. They embrace, working with women. They help us. They support you. They support us. I've been very pleasantly surprised. So you shouldn't make assumptions. I think you'll be pleasantly surprised at the support that you will get from your male counterparts in the industry.
When the opportunity was presented to you to be on the ladder, to be the president, was it an easy decision for you, or was it something that maybe you wrestled with?
It was not an easy decision. It is a very time-consuming. It's almost like another job. So I knew that it would take a lot of time away from my business, and so initially my response was going to be no. One, for that reason, especially when I'm trying to
Catch
possibly
up.
catch up, or maybe eventually,
take things off
phase out, or not work as many hours in my business. I'm like, oh my goodness, now I'm going to have my, our business to run, and this other big responsibility. I think, to be honest with you, and so initially that was, in my mind, that was a reason I was going to say no. But to be honest, once I really started digging deep, I think another major reason why I did not want to do it is because of self-doubt.
Wow.
If I'm going to be honest, I thought maybe I don't have what it takes. Maybe I don't know enough about the construction industry, as other builders that are other male counterparts, and or so. I think a lot of it, to be honest, was self-doubt. But I was telling myself and your dad and you kids, well, yeah, I just don't have the time to do it. So
Wow.
that is the honest truth.
So what was it that made you decide to do it? Was it the people in your life, or was there a purpose or a why that you saw in it that made you say, okay, yes, I'll go ahead and take this on?
Two things. Once again, your tribe, the people you surround yourself with, are going to be critical in terms of how successful you're going to be in your career. Your father has always encouraged me to move forward and to accomplish and achieve things. And you would think another man might have been intimidated by the fact that, okay, wait a minute, we're both the owners of this company. Why is my wife going to be the president instead of me?
Wow.
I'm the male. But he didn't take that. He didn't take that approach at all. He loved the idea. He encouraged me to do it. He told me, you have to do it. And then, you kids, of course, as well. So that was one thing. He encouraged me to do it. He told me, we will support you. We'll hire more people so that you can be, have more time to devote to being the president of the association for that year. And that really helped, having his support. Another thing is, when I really started thinking about it, like you said, in the 70-something year history of this association, there's only been two other female presidents. And I started thinking, I need to do this more so to be an example to other young women in the industry, like yourself and your sister, and other young women that are working in our industry. If they don't see more
representation,
more female, leaders in our industry, then they may think, maybe there's no room for me there. And that really, when you do something for a reason other than for your own personal gain or benefit, I find that gives you the ability or the strength or to embark on something that may be scary or overwhelming, because now you're not doing it for yourself, you're doing it for somebody else. And so that's what I tell myself. If I'm blessed that I was given this opportunity, and if I don't take it, then I'm doing other young women in the industry a disservice. And and the fact that the leadership of the association thought to give me this opportunity, and maybe if I say no, how long will it be before they give this opportunity to another female? But now, I'll be the third female president. Now everybody's going to see it more as, okay, then yeah, it's normal. It's normal. It is possible for us to have female presidents, and maybe now eventually it'll be 50% of the presidents have been women and 50% have been men. So that's what made me change my mind on it.
The people you surround yourself with and finding the purpose outside of yourself.
Exactly.
That's so good.
Just a tip before we move on, and I tell you kids this all the time. The biggest decision, the most impactful and important decision you'll ever make in your life is not what you major in, what college you go to, what your career is going to be. The most important decision is who are you going to choose to be the father or the mother of your children, or your wife and your husband. And I attribute a lot of my success in business definitely to the fact that your father is my life partner and also my business partner. I wouldn't be here without if I had married somebody else. And I think he says the same thing.
Wow, that's so beautiful. Those are all big decisions, where you choose to live, what you choose to get your degree in, but who you decide to spend the rest of your life with can really, and I've learned that from the two of you, can really be a huge factor in where you end up. And your life is such a testament to that. Mm-hmm. So thank you for sharing that.
And not only, if you're not married, then it's okay. It's who you surround yourself with. Surround yourself with people that are going to encourage you, with people that truly want what's best for you. Because we all need support in life.
Especially starting a business.
Yes. And more so than financial support, moral support. And so at any given time, you're going to have self-doubts, and you're going to be afraid to move forward, or with an idea, or to embark on something new. But if you surround yourself with the right people, they're going to be your support system, holding you up and inching you in the right direction. So be very, very careful
and selective
about who you surround yourself with.
Wow. Dang, that is good. Okay. So you are a woman who, maybe it's because I know you so well that I see you have a lot of strengths, and you have specific strengths. How did you discover your unique talents and strengths, and how have you leveraged them to build your business? And also, what advice do you have for others looking to find their own gifts and strengths?
I think a lot of us don't ever even ask ourselves that question. And everybody has strengths, and then other areas where maybe, I don't know if we can call them weaknesses, but maybe they're not
your strong suit.
Exactly. I think we should all be okay with that. I tend to embrace it. I tend to be a perfectionist, and I tend to be very hard on myself. And so even accepting the fact that, I should only, in running my business, and this is something that I've learned from reading books on business and entrepreneurial ship, is really do an audit of what your strengths are and what you enjoy doing, and focus on doing that in your business, and let somebody else that is better at that do the other things.
Wow.
So a mistake that I made for many years in as a business owner is I would try to do it all.
Wow.
And so oftentimes I was stressed. I hated what I was doing, and it took joy away from my work, because I was doing tasks that I absolutely didn't want to do, because I felt like I had to do it all. And it took a lot of time, but as I've brought people on board, and I think it's also, I don't know if it's an ego thing, but thinking, well, nobody can do it better than I can because I'm the owner, and maybe nobody else is going to care as much as I do to do it right. But as I've allowed myself to begin to delegate duties or functions that, especially the ones that I'm not particularly strong in, oh my goodness, just try it. And now the more I delegate, the
happier you are.
The happier I am, and the more I see, what, this person can actually do it better than I can. Wow. Because that is their strength, and it isn't my strength. So the book, Ask Who, Not How, also wonderful book.
That helped you learn how to delegate
yes, and
tasks.
so now when something has to get done, I'm trying to shift my mindset more so to, okay, not how am I going to do it, but who in my organization is going to do it. I think that as a lot of us, especially small business owners, our business is so dependent on us that if from one day to the other,
God forbid,
like, your father has had two heart attacks. His second heart attack from one day to the other, he wasn't able to go to work.
Or be on the job site.
And so the best thing you can do for your business as an owner is to...
And your clients.
And your clients and your employees is to shift your mindset and to set up systems so that your business can operate, doesn't depend on you to be profitable and to operate.
Wow.
And so now I'm moving more in that direction where I want to get to the point where if I don't go into work for, I don't know that I'll ever do this, but several weeks, the business continues to operate.
Wow.
And
that's a successful business. That's something
business.
You can sell.
In fact,
that's something
yes.
That's a machine that runs whether you're there or not.
Right. And believe me, it's not easy, because what I see is as I've hired more team members, sometimes before it gets easier, it's harder.
Yeah.
Because I have all of these things that need to get done.
That's a good tip.
I don't, and I would tell myself, I don't have the time to stop to train somebody, and then when they make mistakes and oversee them and come back and try to correct it. And then if that person doesn't work out, now I have to train somebody else. But you know what? We need to grow this business. We need it to
be sustainable.
We need all these things to be done. So I don't have the time to train somebody or the patience. And so I've shifted my mindset in that regard too. And that's something that I wish I would have learned many years ago.
Wow. That's really,
if I could do it all over again, I would take that approach. I would have taken that approach many years ago.
You mentioned a time early on when you were starting your business and you were transitioning, when you were running the restaurant. And I know that you had, growing up, I saw you all running this restaurant, and, thankfully, I think we're all very grateful for it. It got us, it raised us, our family, it supported our family, but I could tell that you all did not like it. And I could tell that it was affecting your health. It was affecting your happiness. But you touched on earlier that you all made the brave decision to say, we are going to let this business go to pursue what we're actually passionate about, which is home building. But there were times when you were at church, when you were crying, or maybe you couldn't go to bed because you had that uncertainty. Entrepreneurship often involves navigating through moments of uncertainty or seasons of uncertainty. How do you stay resilient and focused during uncertain times? And does your faith play any part in that?
I go back to whenever I'm afraid of what the future holds or about a decision, I take the perspective of, okay, what is a worst case scenario? And can I live with a worst case scenario? If I can, then okay, that helps me move forward with it. Also, the prayer about asking God to, change the things I can and the wisdom to know, the difference.
Yeah. I think it's the prayer of serenity.
Yes. So that perspective is very helpful in terms of, I talk to God and I say, okay, God, I don't know what the future holds, but I am going to move forward with it. I'm going to give it my best shot, and then you do the rest. And maybe I don't know what the best decision is, but you do know. Please guide me. And so having faith really helps, because it helps ease that burden where you're feeling this huge burden. You take that burden, you hand it to God, and you tell him, you know what, God, you know what's best, and stand with me in this, and I'm gonna let it go.
Oh, I love that. That's so beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. Okay, so we're inching towards the end of our conversation here. But the next question I have for you is more so about what you touched on earlier, which is purpose. So what role does purpose play in your entrepreneurial journey? And how do you align your business with your personal mission to make the world a better place?
Also, something that I learned over time of being a business owner. I think initially when I, when your dad and I talked about being business owners, the reasons, and we were much younger back then, the reasons were different for why we wanted to do what we were gonna do. We want to have a certain net worth. We want to make this much money.
Have a certain lifestyle.
Over time, I've learned that operating and running a business, it has highs and lows. And sometimes you ask yourself, why am I doing this? Like, I could probably make the same amount of money in a 9-to-5 job where I wouldn't have all of this liability, all of this responsibility,
risk.
and risk. As a business owner, what I found really helpful is if you have a purpose other than the personal gain to you, like I'm doing this to make this much money or to have this net worth, but instead of you see it from the perspective of how whatever you're doing is going to serve others, to me, that is more of a I have found personally that's more of a motivating factor for me. So, for instance, in running the reason your father and I love being home builders is we feel that we have a purpose. We love the idea of buying a piece of dirt and building something on it that is gonna be there even after we die. And so, and not only that, if we build a good quality, beautiful home, people are going to make beautiful memories there. So, and also this is, people save for years and years in order to be able to afford a home, or for a lot of our clients, yes, they're building custom homes. This is their forever home. This is their dream home. So I feel a great sense of purpose to, I'm doing something that is going to serve people where they're going to make memories with their families.
For generations and generations.
And it's also going to serve, this is where they're investing their money. And God willing, over the years, it's going to appreciate and their money's going to multiply. So,
and their family will be better off because they made a wise financial decision.
Exactly. So when I look at it I do this from that perspective to serve others. And also, when I think about, our employees and, our team members right now, most of them are much younger than us. They're raising their families from
that income,
from the earnings from this income. To build our homes, we hire subcontractors, and they in turn have their staff that come in, and some of our subcontractors work almost exclusively with us and only one or two other builders. So their company depends on our company doing well in order for them to be able to keep their company,
their family,
and support their families and their employees
and their employees' families.
So once again, I see that as a privilege. We get to impact all of these lives and be a part of all of these people's livelihood. And so on days when things are tough, that idea of the purpose of why we do what we do, I find it to be very helpful in terms of giving me the drive that I need to weather the ups and downs of being a business owner.
Something I kind of wanted to touch on too, and again, you don't have to share it if it's too personal, but I say it because that's something I often think about, is that in our family, we come from minorities, obviously. You're fully Mexican. Both of your parents are from Mexico. And something that Dad has in common is that he's from Syria. So both both of your parents did not come from money or wealth at all. In fact, they weren't just middle class; they were poor. They were lived in poverty in Mexico, and as a result of that, many people in our family had to struggle. In terms of maybe abuse or maybe poor, not having the opportunity or the resources to have a good life or do the things that they wanted to do. What impact, even though I know it's very difficult, starting a business, having a business, everyone out there, every business owner, entrepreneur out there can relate to that. What is the impact that you think starting your own business has had on you and your family that may benefit it and make an impact for generations to come?
I've always seen it as, and once again, this has helped me during difficult times. On my mother's side, my grandmother, I think she had an elementary school education at best. She didn't even know how to read in Spanish, in her native language. On my father's side, same, uneducated men and women on both sides. And so something that has helped me is I tell myself, when growing up, my parents didn't have a college education. And so their dream was for my sisters and I to have a college education. And what I tell myself often is, okay, my grandmother or my grandmothers and my mother didn't have the opportunities that I have. I cannot squander the opportunities. I owe this to them.
Wow. The sacrifices.
My parents made great sacrifices to come to the United States looking for a better life. And so what is my responsibility to my parents and my grandparents that have struggled and have worked hard in order to give me the opportunities that I have had? Wow. And so to me, they were the brave ones. All I have to do is just accept the opportunity and go with it. And I saw a great example in my father also. He had, he wasn't educated. He came to this country speaking very little English, and he eventually started a company, and it was a successful company. So
what was that business?
He actually owned a plumbing company. And so
not the sexiest job you've
not
ever
the
seen
sexiest job. And I remember him, coming home with, burn marks and, bumps on his head from work
labor.
and laboring. And, I remember him also telling us stories about, he was a construction worker, even though, he owned a company. I remember, he used to work for home builders where his clients, he used to do the plumbing work for home builders. And I remember him telling us of instances where sometimes he wasn't treated well. I remember him telling us a story about, he was at one of his client builders' office one day or at a job site. No, I think it was the office. And he asked him, "Oh, can I use your bathroom in the office?" And he said, "No, there's out in the job sites, there's porta potties, go use those." And so that was a humiliation in terms of no, you're just a construction worker, don't, you stay in your lane. And yeah. I think that's also given me the motivation to maybe pursue this industry and try to advance in this industry. And, I think, my father didn't have the opportunity to be a home builder and to hire subcontractors. He was a subcontractor, and, I get to do this, and now I get to be in a leadership position, in the local builders association. As a woman. And it's all because my father worked hard, paid the price, put up with, humiliation. And so once again, that purpose and that drive, serves you very well. And he changed the trajectory of our family by coming to this country and being a business owner. He set an example for us. And so, if he hadn't done that, I wouldn't be here.
Wow.
And now being a business owner, you, your brother, and your sister are part of our business, and one day maybe you all will take over the business, and you'll expand it, and you have the opportunity now that maybe wouldn't be there if he hadn't paved the way, and then we hadn't, if for anybody who comes from a family of, where things have always been a certain way in terms of not having enough money or not having an education, somebody has to be the one to shift the generation into another direction. And then you tell your children, like I often tell you, your grandmother or your grandparents, this is how they lived, and this is what they had to endure. And your grandfather, he paved the way for us, for our family to advance and have a different life. And then your father and I, because your father is, an immigrant.
Yeah.
And he came from Syria
with nothing,
with nothing for a better life. And so what I tell you kids is, you have a responsibility to advance our family and your children, and even more. So here's the torch. Now you pick up the torch and you advance. And shame on you if you, instead of advancing,
we revert back
you revert back. So that's what I've tried to teach you kids, is you owe it to your grandfather and your great-grandfather and great-grandmother, because that, I think that's something that is a beautiful thing, and it will change the trajectory of your entire family.
Wow. Your entire family tree because of a decision that you make.
Exactly.
Okay. So as we end, what is the most valuable piece of advice you would give to somebody who is just starting out on their entrepreneurial journey? What is something that you wish someone told you when you first started those businesses all those years ago?
It's going to be difficult. Don't expect it to be easy. You're going to have self-doubt. You're going to have setbacks. You're going to make mistakes. You're going to have financial losses because of mistakes that you make or just things that happen. Expect it and move forward.
Wow.
That's I think
simple.
You go into it with eyes wide open, knowing that it's going to be difficult, and network and talk to other entrepreneurs. Read books like what is that Nike book, Shoe
Dog.
Oh my gosh, read books like that, and you will see that every entrepreneur has had struggles, and it's going to be tough, but if that is your personality and it's something you want to do, go for it. And you know what? If it doesn't work out, at least you can say
you tried.
I gave it my all.
Beautiful.
But go into it expecting it to be difficult and not easy.
Wow, that is so good. And I wish more people talked about that. And the last question here, Lydia, mother, is how can we as a community support you and your mission?
I would, being in the construction industry, I highly encourage women to consider joining our industry. It's a wonderful industry. There's a lot of opportunity. Women are welcomed in our industry. So if it's something that is of interest to you, by all means, join our industry. I have seen that women, provide we women, I think sometimes society likes to say, oh, women and men were exactly the same. We're not. And in general, sometimes, for the most part, we approach things differently. There's a lot that
we have to give,
that women have to offer this industry. And so I would say not so much, I'm not asking somebody to support me, but I'm just support the industry and as women, come and join our industry. Consider it.
Don't let fear and self-doubt hold you back.
And if you have self-doubt, it's okay, but
keep
don't
going.
let it keep going and don't let it hold you back.
Well,
What's interesting is I mentioned to you that growing up, so in the summers and while I was in college, I would work in my father's office. And I would always say, I will never be in the construction industry. My dream, I always loved fashion and design. And so my dream was, I majored in business my dream was to eventually work in like the fashion industry or something more of a creative industry. Construction industry
was not
in the picture. And so I always said, I will never, ever be in this industry. But now
that you do it, you found a way to take your gift and love for creativity and design. And that's why you build homes that are completely one of a kind and they're known for their design. So you found a way to take a gift and use it to pursue a passion that's completely different from maybe what you had in mind at first.
Exactly. So be open also, as you're deciding what you want to do with your life, be open and do something that is aligned with, like you said, your strengths. I think that the fact that I like design and I'm very visual has served me well in this business.
Absolutely.
But work hard at figuring out what your strengths are, and then be open to different ways or different career opportunities to utilize those strengths.
Dang, that's great. Thank you so much, Mom, for your time today. I really believe and I really pray that this helps maybe a little girl out there, or maybe a minority, or maybe somebody who's thinking about starting a business, but they struggle with these demons of self-doubt and failure, or somebody out there who is already a business owner and struggles with these things every day. So thank you for your time today. We hope you all enjoyed, and we'll see you next time. I find this strategy really effective, especially if I know somebody's having a hard day. Just going up to them, and what I tell myself is, I'm not going to change this person's life. I'm not going to fix this issue that they're dealing with, but I can give them a compliment, or I can let them know how grateful I am for them.